The Fabian Wolves have entered the Lords. Star Mahan Sadiq Khan power for life. More than a century ago, a very dark British socialist movement created a stainless glass window depicting how it intended to change the world. At the center, two leading Fabians are shown striking the earth with hammers. They are literally attempting to remold the world upon an anvil. Pretty creepy, right? And directly above them sits an image that becomes more disturbing the longer you examine it. A wolf wearing the skin of a sheep. Remind you of anything? You see, this wasn't created by their enemies. It was not invented by conspiracy theorists. It came from within the Fabian movement itself. The London School of Economics describes the image as representing the society's gradualist approach. But what sounds like infiltration to me. Do not overthrow the system, enter it. Do not announce a revolution, disguise transformation as reform. Move slowly enough that the public barely notices. And then, once enough institutions have been occupied, infiltrated, controlled, begin remolding the world nearer to the heart's desire. Remember, this isn't a conspiracy. Now look at Britain in July 2026. Keir Starmer is preparing to leave Downing Street, but before the door closes behind him, he's nominated Sadiq Khan, the Muslim mayor of London, for a life peerage. And I'll explain what that is. It's a position in the House of Lords, a voice of national legislation, a vote on the laws of this country, and a political title that can remain with him for the rest of his life. The public didn't vote for this. You didn't vote for it. I didn't vote for it. Britain wasn't asked. What happened is, one Fabian-linked politician has elevated another Fabian-linked politician, the wolves in sheep's clothing, into another powerful British institution. And he's unelected by the people. Suddenly, that old image of the wolves in sheep's clothing doesn't feel quite historical, does it? Because when you follow the story from the Fabian window to City Hall, from City Hall to Downing Street, and now from Downing Street into the House of Lords, a disturbing pattern begins to emerge. A system promising democracy whilst transferring power behind the scenes, but also in plain sight, without your permission. A prime minister promising reform while rewarding political allies. A mayor facing serious questions about London's failures, yet being elevated instead of held accountable. Remember, he denied that there was such thing as those gangs operating in the United Kingdom. He completely ignored it, played dumb. And don't forget the quote-unquote king, King Charles, who formally is supposed to complete the process while Britain's Christian heritage continues to disappear beneath him. He's no longer the defender of the faith, but the defender of faiths. Nothing about this story is normal. UK is like an experiment, honestly. But the most disturbing part is that almost all of it is legal. Yeah. On the 16th of July, the government announced 26 proposed new peers. There were nominations from different political backgrounds, but one name immediately dominated the story: Sadiq Khan, the current Muslim mayor of London. The man who has already occupied City Hall for a decade is now being moved toward Parliament's unelected upper chamber, where he will literally be able to vote on laws, unelected. What do you think he's going to do with that power, if he gets it? And the timing could hardly be more revealing. This announcement arrived only days before Keir Starmer was due to leave office. And the reason that matters is because Starmer was asked in 2023 whether he would produce a resignation honours list when his time in Downing Street eventually ended. And his answer was no. He himself described the practice as extremely difficult to justify. Yet what is he doing? He suggested the cleaner approach was simply not to do it. Yet now, in his final days as Prime Minister, Starmer has nominated political figures for lifelong peerages. The official defense is that this is technically a political peerages list, not a resignation honours list. You see how these politicians play the game? They basically changed the label, but they didn't change the behaviour. It's complete manipulation. And this is how these modern left-wing political establishments survive. Not always through obvious lies, often through carefully engineered technicalities. They condemn a practice, reclassify it, and continue doing it, and then accuse the public of failing to understand the distinction. No, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? That's just stupidity. It's ridiculous behavior. Starmer is a corrupt, wicked man, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But we understand the distinction perfectly. We understand what happened. We know what happened. A departing prime minister used his remaining power to advance political figures into a chamber the public does not elect. You know, that might satisfy the procedure, but it doesn't satisfy the principle. And legality does not cleanse an act of corruption when the corruption lies within the system itself. And that's the problem. The entire government system is corrupt at this point. They are trying to destroy people's image publicly when they're speaking truth. They deny obvious things that are taking place that are evil and wicked. And it seems that they are pushing certain ideologies continually. Islam. You know, when it comes to the House of Lords chamber, Sadiq Khan has not merely been given a decorative title, right? Once the formal process is complete, he can take part in the House of Lords. The Lords examines legislation. Its members propose amendments, scrutinize government decisions, sit on committees and vote during the legislative process. The House of Commons remains constitutionally dominant, but the Lords can still delay legislation. So, do you see now why this is extremely dangerous and suspicious? Because what do you think Sadiq Khan is going to do if he gets into the House of Lords? You know, they can alter bills. They can force governments to reconsider decisions. It can influence laws involving crime, policing, immigration, national security, and the protection of children. That's real power, you know. And here's the critical difference, right? When Sadiq Khan stood for mayor, Londoners could examine his record and vote against him. When an MP fails, the electorate can remove that MP. But the British public cannot remove a life peer at the next general election. Do you get what's going on here? They're trying to keep Sadiq Khan in politics permanently with extreme power. He won't even need Britain's permission to remain a peer. The political establishment has given him something that the electorate cannot easily take away. That's why it's quote-unquote power for life. This is not simply dramatic language. This is literally giving somebody power for life. So yeah, you get the point. The public elected Khan to City Hall for a limited period of time. Nobody elected him to help shape national legislation from the House of Lords. But that's exactly what Keir Starmer has given him. And this is where the Fabian connection becomes impossible to ignore. The Fabian Society is not a secret organization because it doesn't need to be. Its relationship with Labour is open. Its publications are public. Its influence across the party is well documented. Keir Starmer previously served on the Fabian Society's executive committee. Let that settle in. In 2024, Starmer wrote that Fabians and Fabian principles had been at the heart of Labour's most important historical moments. The wolves in sheep's clothing, that's who he is. He said he expected the Fabians to accompany Labour in its mission for national renewal. So he wanted these wolves, which he is one of them, to accompany Labour, more like they are Labour. Then Sadiq Khan contributed to the same publication, and Khan's words were even more revealing. He said that he joined the Fabian Society approximately 30 years ago. He also said that its values formed the very foundation upon which he governed London, obviously alongside his Islamic belief. And then he celebrated the possibility of City Hall, Whitehall Departments and 10 Downing Street all being occupied by Fabians. So he knows what he is doing, he knows what he is, and he knows exactly what their goals are. And now we see what's taking place. Those are not accusations from the far right, as they like to call it. Those are Sadiq Khan's own words. City Hall, Whitehall, Downing Street, occupied by Fabians. And now we can add one more institution to his list, the House of Lords. Man, City Hall, Whitehall, Downing Street, the House of Lords, that's not an imaginary network. That's in plain sight. The people involved openly describe the network themselves. The only thing really left to debate is what is their motive? What does this network of wolves intend to do with its influence and power? And history offers a clue. The society took its name from the Roman general Fabius Maximus. This isn't a conspiracy, this is reality. Fabius avoided one enormous confrontation. Instead, he weakened his opponent gradually. Small movements, constant pressure, strategic patience, victory achieved over time. And we can't let that happen, especially with the Islamic connection. This is really dangerous in my opinion. You know, that Fabian network, that political method that they use, it's not to frighten the public with sudden transformation. It's to slowly change society in what they want it to be over time. And now that society is bowing down to Islam. And what they're trying to do is influence policy, education, government. Pretty much the most obvious Trojan horse of all time is Islam in the Western world. They try to present every individual change as moderate, reasonable, and compassionate. They ally with the left and the weak, insane people of society. And I say that with all due respect. A lot of the time, it's not their fault. They've literally been brainwashed. And then what they try to do is get these changes to accumulate until the country bears little resemblance to what existed before. A Christian, powerful, beautiful, moral nation. That's why the Fabian window matters. It depicts Sidney Webb and George Bernard Shaw hammering the world upon an anvil. They're telling you what they want to do in front of your face. and above them is a wolf in sheep's clothing, their very emblem. Not because the sheep represents weakness, because the sheep's clothing represents disguise. They appear harmless, moderate, respectable, but what are they really? Wolves. And they continue to remold society from within. And what makes this so creepy is not that the symbol was hidden. In fact, it's the opposite. It was displayed in plain sight. The method was placed in stained glass, and most of Britain never bothered to look or to dig deep enough. Now, place Sadiq Khan's peerage inside that historical method. Starmer does not need to announce that he is strengthening a Fabian political network. He simply recommends Khan for a peerage, and the government does not need to declare that it's transferring influence away from the voters. That's what's happening. They're taking the vote away and putting it in the hands of wolves. They call the announcement a political peerages list. Khan doesn't need to win a national election anymore. The appointment process carries him into the Lords, one respectable procedure at a time, one institution at a time, one wolf through the door at a time. And it's like, wow, it's in plain sight, man. But before we go any further, if you're new here, subscribe. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Greatly helps out the channel and it's free for you to do. We're going to be doing a lot more videos like this, hopefully. But yeah, back to the point, and this is where it gets really disgusting. In January 2025, Sadiq Khan was asked about grooming gangs operating in London. Based upon the information he said he had received from the Metropolitan Police, Sadiq Khan claimed there were no reported cases or indication of the particular pattern being discussed. Remember, this is a Muslim mayor being asked about Muslim grooming gangs, and his response was astonishingly confident. He was so firm in his position. No indication, no reported cases. But then, something happened. The Metropolitan Police committed to reviewing approximately 9,000 historical cases of child sexual exploitation covering around 15 years. Cases that had previously concluded without further action from police or prosecutors. The purpose of that review was to search for evidence and patterns of group-based sexual offending. 9,000 historical cases. Now, that does not mean the police discovered 9,000 separate grooming gangs. We do not need to invent figures like some people claim. The real figure is alarming enough. The issue is that Khan sounded confident. He claimed, oh, what's a grooming gang? You know, there was no reported indication apparently of the problem, while the evidence said the complete opposite. And now we have Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry, where there is a lot of indication in that report that Islam has a massive part in this situation, if not the primary focus is that. In Rotherham, an independent inquiry took place, right? And it estimated that at least 1,400 children were sexually exploited between 1997 and 2013. Some were only 11 years old. Children were trafficked, assaulted, threatened, and much worse. The warnings existed, the victims spoke out, reports were written, but the institutions responsible for protecting those children repeatedly failed. Now, do you think the wolves played any part in this? I could go on and on and on. And I don't want this to be a very, very long video. I just want to get to the point and show you what's taking place. So let's skip to King Charles, right? King Charles holds the title Defender of the Faith and Supreme Governor of the Church of England. At his coronation, he swore to preserve the Church of England and its doctrine, worship, discipline, and government. But recently, there was a very slight change of word. He is now the defender of faiths. That's strange. And this is the same man who knighted Sadiq Khan. Do you really think he's going to have anything against putting him in the House of Lords? It seems pretty clear to many Christians that the crown has moved from defending the Christian faith to managing Christianity's decline quietly. But those who have eyes to see and ears to hear know exactly what's going on. The royal family itself literally says the king may advise and warn his ministers privately. We don't know what Charles said in those private conversations. The public only knows the outcome. Starmer recommends, the king formalizes, Khan gets into the Lords, and Britain watches and reports on it, like always. A lot of people have been rising up, angry, saying things on X, getting arrested, and it seems that the public is being pushed into a corner. Think about it. The whole picture is coming together. A political society whose historical artwork depicted a wolf in sheep's clothing and leading members remolding the world. A prime minister who once served on that society's executive committee, a mayor who said Fabian values formed the foundation of his government, a mayor who openly celebrated Fabians occupying City Hall, Whitehall and Downing Street, the same mayor now being moved towards the House of Lords, a departing prime minister using one of his final acts to make it possible, and a constitutional monarch formally completing the process. The Fabians don't need to break down Britain's doors anymore. The doors are open for them because they snuck in the back door and opened the front. They don't need to abolish every institution anymore. They can occupy them. It's crazy. And I want to know what you have to say about this, because anyone can moan. But I think that Restore Britain, Reform, and the wider British rights are attracting people who have lost faith in old parties. The public no longer believes that replacing one establishment manager with another will save the country. They want representatives who are prepared to confront the system itself. And that's without even touching on migration, right? Britain seems to be getting conquered, not in one dramatic moment, but being molded, just as the wolves said they would. Christ warned us about the wolves in sheep's clothing. The shepherds have invited it in. But what it seems like to me is not only are the wolves wearing sheep's clothing, they're also claiming to be shepherds. And those shepherds are dangerous.
Grab something epic at www.saintavs.com.